Hey guys, it's me, and I'm back this time to do my yearly countdown of my favorite albums of the year. And as usual, I'm gonna share my top 10 of 2015, top 10 albums of 2015. And I think that overall it was a really great year for new music in 2015. A lot of new bands coming up with new really good albums, as well as their older bands that either came back or reunited in 2015 to put out some really great records as well. So I've been putting a lot of thought into my top 10 list in the last few months, honestly, and things have been shuffling around in my list and also in the last few months, but finally I ended up with my list of the top 10 of 2015. And I wanted to share that with you. But before getting started, I wanted to go real quick through my list of honorable mentions, and these are the albums that I really liked and I've been listening to a lot this year, but they didn't make it into my list, my top 10 albums of 2015. And I'll have them floating around here in the screen in case you want to check them out. So let's just go real quick through them. First, Hey Baby with Sleepy Kids, really good album. Also Beach Slang with a new album called The Things We Do to Find People Who Feel Like Us. A really long album title, but a really great album by a band that has a singer that his voice reminds me a lot of the guy from Joe Breaker. So a really great album, check him out. Also Pale Honey with their debut album Pale Honey. Also Blur with The Magic Whip. It's an album that I really been almost listening throughout the year. I bought it almost at the beginning of the year, and I've been listening to that album a lot. I really like it. And finally, also Wolf Alice with their new album My Love Is Cool, a really awesome album by this indie rock band. But anyways, that's my list of honorable mentions. Now let's go ahead and check out my top 10. Alright, so let's get started with my countdown, and number 10 we get the new album or the debut album by the band Bully, and this one's called Feels Like, and it came out on Columbia Records. And honestly, I first listened to this band just fairly recently, and I remember that the first time that I listened to them, I could have sworn that this band was from the 90s. I thought it was an old band from the 90s that I never heard of, because everything about them, their style, the voice of the singer, their style of punk rock, everything sounds like it was like that early 90s style of punk rock that was really popular when bands like The Offspring and Green Day came out back in the early 90s. And that's actually my favorite style or my favorite genre in music, so I really like this album. Also, her voice reminds me a lot of kind of like a mix between Courtney Love's voice and the growls of Kim Shattuck of the Muffs. Two great singers from the early 90s, so again, I was very impressed with this band Bully, their debut album called Feels Like. Check them out if you're into 90s style punk rock. So speaking of 90s style of music, number 9 we get a new album by Waxahatchee, and this one's called Ivy Trip and came out on Merch Records. And this is actually just a promo copy of the CD that I found at the record store on sale, kind of like a post-record store day CD sale. I still have to find me a vinyl version of this one. But I really like this album. Kind of like a 90s style singer-songwriter kind of music. A lot of really great melodies, and for a lot of those songs you can tell that they mean a lot, or they're very kind of like personal for the singer-songwriter Waxahatchee. Some great songs from here, songs like Under a Rock, La Luz, and Less Than. But overall, really solid album by Waxahatchee. Again, this one's called Ivy Trip. And let's actually go ahead and check out a short clip from a song from Ivy Trip. This one's called Under a Rock.
Maybe you got your head caught in a ditch last night. I got to you
Alright, so let's move on now to number 8, and at this point we get what I believe is the most underrated album of 2015, and I'm talking about the Silversun Pickups with Better Nature. And this one came out on New Machine Recordings. And actually, out of my top 10, this is the only album that I still have to get me on a physical form, either on CD or vinyl. But I do have the MP3 download of the album, and it's really great. And the reason why I say it's underrated is because it didn't really get that much attention right after, or a few months after it came out. Sure, there was one song called Nightlife that got us some attention in the radio, but overall, after that, it didn't really get that much airplay. And there's some really, really great songs in this album. Songs like Cradle or Nightlight, songs like I think there's one called Circadian Rhythm. Really great songs, but the song that I really liked the most out of this album was a song called Latchkey Kids. A really great song. Actually, let's go ahead and check out a short clip from the Silversun Pickups. Again, this one's called Latchkey Kids.
Keep your fingers crossed. You're outside and free from all tethers, so get off the floor if you're under the weather. Come on. Latchkey kids have all come together, so unlock the door, it'll make you feel better. Come on.
Alright, so now at number 7 we get the new album by California-based band Best Coast with California Nights, and this one came out on Harvest Records. And gosh, this album is so great. I've had songs from this album stuck in my head almost throughout the year. Really great songs, female vocals, really great guitars, but songs like Heaven Sent, In My Eyes, California Nights, really catchy music and really great style of music by Best Coast. And I would say out of my all the artists from my top 10, if I had to bet on a band that would become huge in the next few years, it would be Best Coast. Mainly because I hear so much potential in their music. They have so much talent. And overall, I think I don't think this is the best album that Best Coast is going to come up with. I think they're going to come up with really better albums in the next few years once they become better. But anyways, a really, really solid album by Best Coast, again with California Nights, number 7. Alright, so now at number 6 we get the new album by Veruca Salt. And this one is called Ghost Notes. And this one came out on El Camino Media Records. And of course everybody knows of Veruca Salt, a very popular band back in the 90s. They never really broke up, but this is their first new album since 2006. And also their first album with the original lineup since 1997. So, and when I hear to Veruca Salt now, it's the same as listening to them back in the 90s. They really kept their same style of music. Even the vocals by Nina Gordon sound almost the same as back in the 90s, which is a good thing for them because I really, really love their style. Again, this one's called Ghost Notes. A really great album, a lot of really great songs like The Gospel According to Saint Me, Eyes on You, Laughing in the Sugar Bowl. It has kind of like a lot of fast songs and a few slower songs as well. Also some songs that mix kind of like the fast and slow or loud, quiet, loud kind of theme. But overall, a really solid album, solid new album by Veruca Salt, Ghost Notes again. Let's actually go ahead and check out a short clip from one of the songs from Ghost Notes. This one's called Eyes on You.
I'm playing it back. The heart attack that opened my eyes to you. Wait, don't grow up yet, 'cause it's late. We're wired and underslept. I can trace arrows and evidence back to you.
Okay, so that was Veruca Salt with Ghost Notes at number 6. And now let's move on to my top 5. And at number 5, we get the Jack White side project, The Dead Weather. And this one's called Dodge and Burn from Third Man Records, of course. Now, I think out of all the Jack White side projects, I think The Dead Weather is one of my favorites, or probably my favorite of his side projects. And I think it might be because it features Alison Mosshart, which I've been a big fan of her since she used to play in a pop-punk band called Discount. A really great band as well, you should check them out. And later on, of course, she also played in The Kills. But I really like this side project. Jack White actually doesn't play the guitar in The Dead Weather, he plays the drums. So it's kind of like the same kind of garage rock style of music, but a little bit different. I think it's their very unique style of music. Again, this is The Dead Weather with Dodge and Burn. This album has a really great song called Buzz Killer. Let's take a quick listen to that song right now. Let's check it out.
No mercy shall be given me down in Tennessee. Stop! Killing me. Why don't you stop? Killer.
Alright, so now number 4, we get the new album by Canadian singer-songwriter Courtney Barnett. And her new album is called Sometimes I Sit and Think, and Sometimes I Just Sit. Interesting album title by Courtney Barnett. And this one came out on Marathon Artists Records. And a really cool album, kind of like indie rock kind of style. But what's interesting about Courtney's music is that she adds a lot of really good humor in a lot of her lyrics. And add that to a lot of really catchy tunes, and you end up with a really great album. Number 4 in my list, again, Courtney Barnett, with Sometimes I Sit and Think and Sometimes I Just Sit. Let's actually go ahead and listen to a short clip from one of the songs from her album. This one is called Elevator Operator.
With the Botox frown, he's well used to that look by now. The elevator dings and they awkwardly step in. Their fingers touch on the rooftop button. Don't jump, little boy, don't jump off that roof. You got your whole life ahead of you, still in your youth. I'd give anything to have skin like you. He said, I think you're...
Alright, so that was Courtney Barnett at number 4, and now let's move on to my top 3 albums of 2015. And at number 3 we get the new album by Speedy Ortiz with Foil Deer. They actually saw him live not so long ago and they signed my record. And this one came out on Car Park Records. And I think that out of my top 10 albums of 2015, this is the album that really flows the best as an overall album as a whole. This is the kind of album that the more you listen to, the more you like it. Indie rock, female singer, really kind of like a little bit of 90s sound here and there as well. Really great songs throughout the album. Let's actually go ahead and listen to a short clip from one of the songs from Foil Deer. This one is called The Graduates.
We were the French club dropouts, but we never got excused from class. The secretary must have been high to turn a blind eye on us sneaking out back. Then we were pregnant on the balcony, and you...
Alright, so that was Speedy Ortiz at number 3 with Foil Deer. Now we move on closer to the top, and at number 2 we get something that a lot of people might be surprised by my number 2 pick, but this one is the Screaming Females with Rose Mountain. And this one came out on Don Giovanni Records. And the reason why I say that some people might be surprised about my number 2 pick is because a lot of people are saying that this is not really their best album, and also they changed their style quite a lot since the release of their previous album. They used to be like a harder kind of punk rock band. This album is a little bit radio friendlier, a little bit poppier. It has a lot of more melodic songs out there, and actually that's one of the reasons why I like it. That's kind of like one of my favorite genres, and actually I think this is one of their best albums overall. Really enjoyed a lot of their songs like Hopeless, Rose Mountain. The beginning of the album is just kicks ass. Songs with like Empty Head and Ripe. Really great tunes out there. Make sure that you check them out if you're into punk rock. Again, the Screaming Females at number 2 with Rose Mountain. Let's actually go ahead and listen to a short clip from Hopeless.
Over now. Don't count on me again. I'll obsess on our encounters. I want us to be friends. I'm not hopeless, helpless.
Alright, so that was number 2, Rose Mountain by the Screaming Females. And now we move on to my number 1 album of 2015. And this is really not going to be a surprise for a lot of people that watch my videos a lot, because I've talked about this band and this album in particular quite a lot throughout the year. This album just rocks, and I think there's a big difference between this album and the other ones in my list. I think overall, by far, the number 1 album of the year, SleaterKinney with No Cities to Love. Their comeback album on Sub Pop Records, and this album just kicks ass just throughout the album. There's no bad songs. This is probably one of their best albums overall. Songs like Price Tag, Fangless, No Cities to Love, A New Wave, all the songs in this album are good. And I've been listening to this album a lot in 2015. I had to pick it up as my number 1 of the year. Also, the packaging was really cool. If you bought the deluxe edition of the album, it's a little bit expensive but worth it. I made a video about it. Just check out into my old videos in my channel. But anyways, best album of the year by far, SleaterKinney with No Cities to Love. And actually, let's go ahead and listen to a short clip from this album. This song is called Bury Our Friends. Alright, and that was number 1 of the top 10 albums of 2015, SleaterKinney with No Cities to Love. And fantastic album by the Washington State-based band. And make sure that you check out my top albums of 2015. I would love to hear what you think about my top 10. And also I would love to hear back from you about what are your best albums of the year. Like I said before, it was a fantastic year for new music, and I would love to see some of your recommendations. Anyways, thanks for watching, and again, take care, VC, and have a great end of the year. Happy holidays. Bye bye.